Hello everybody, season greeting to you all. Today we'll be looking at the if function. The if function is one of the most popular functions in Excel, and it allows you to make logical comparisons between a value and what you expect. For example, let's say you have a budget and at the end of the day your expenditure is different from your budget, the actual expenditure, different from the budgeted expenditure, and you want to determine what the difference is. Now the second column here is the budgeted amount, and the third column here is the actual amount of expenditure. But we want to determine if the difference here was greater or less than, or if the difference was if the budget was surplus or budget was deficit. Now, how do we do this? We use the if function. Now, I'm going to type the column here O9, and I'm going to specify the if function. I'll say equals if, and in my bracket, I'll specify the cells that I'm looking at. Remember that I'm looking at budget amount and actual amount. So budget amount is in M, and the field that I'm looking at is M9. So I'll say if M9 is greater than, okay, if M9 is greater than N9, I want a specific thing to happen. Now remember that there are two things that could happen. One is if the condition is true. Say I'm comparing two things. If it is true, then I want a certain output to be generated. If it is false, I want a certain output to be generated. So I'm going to have two sets of strings here, and because they are strings, I'm going to be enclosing them in a quoted comma. So I'll say the first one is what happens if it is true. If this condition here, M9 is greater than N9 is met, what happens is I want what is displayed there to say budget surplus. Budget surplus. Now the second condition, the second condition is what happens if the condition is not met. What if N9 ends up being greater than M9? I want the output, the return, to be budget deficit. Budget deficit. I'll close that bracket and I'll close my I'll close the parenthesis. Now when I click enter, the first thing you're going to see here is budget surplus, because in this case budget amount, which is in M9, is greater than actual amount, which is in N9. But then I want this to be returned for, I want this formula to be returned for all of the categories in this table. So I'll quickly fill. Remember we talked about how to fill in Excel. Now you can already tell the difference between your actual amount, the actual amount you spend on the actual amount of expenditure, and equally the budget you have for that sort of expenditure in itself. Now, what if you don't want to return words? What if you want to return numbers? You want to return the actual difference that exists within the actual difference between budget amount and actual amount. How do we do this here? Right. So I want numbers to be displayed, and I want to have a different formula entirely. So I'll write the same thing. I'll say equals if in parenthesis M9 is greater than N9, comma, the return I want for when the condition is true is M9 minus N9. And the return I want from when the condition is not true is 0. So in this case, if the condition is met, Excel is supposed to calculate M9 minus N9, but if the condition is not met, then the return I'm supposed to get is 0. I close the bracket and I click enter. Now, because the condition is met here, because M9 is greater than N9, I'm going to get the difference, which in this case is this value that is returned here. Now let's fill that up for the rest of the value in the table and see what we'll get. Alright, quite simple. Now for the fields or for the cells that were returned as 0, you can already tell that it is a budget deficit because the actual amount is greater than the budget amount, while in this case the budget amount is greater than actual amount, so the difference is very clear. That is that about if function. If you have any question, please don't forget to leave a comment. I will definitely get back to you. Compliment of the season and have a wonderful day.